welcome. Thank you so much for clicking. So we're going to be checking out this video titled "I'm offended by Islam." That's what this man said. Why is it so? What happened? What's the issue? What's the problem? Well, let's find out, guys.
This is for the person who told me recently that Muslims have every right to be offended by Western culture. Of course they do. All I'm saying to offended Muslims is do us all a favour and keep it to yourself, because nobody likes a crybaby. But now I'm thinking that perhaps I'm wrong about this, and that maybe we should all be a lot more offended as often as possible to fully embrace this new culture of knee-jerk offence and give it every chance to work. After all, we in the West have many more reasons to be offended by the religion of peace than it has to be offended by us. I'm offended by the very term religion of peace, which I regard as a far greater lie than any of the superstitious nonsense like about flying horses or angels in caves, and I think it should be prosecutable under the Trade Descriptions Act. Also, I find the Islamic attitude to women, gays, Jews and apostates to be really quite deeply and profoundly offensive. And I would like to emphasise just how offensive I find it, if I may. I find it mind-blowingly, soul-witheringly and unforgivably offensive. Where do I apply for my compensation? Now, I want to make it clear that I'm only offended by Islam because I'm offended by cruelty, intolerance and oppression. If Islam wasn't cruel, intolerant and oppressive, well then I wouldn't be as offended as I am. Obviously I would still be somewhat offended because Islam would still be pushy, confrontational, demanding and threatening. If it wasn't pushy, confrontational, demanding and threatening, I wouldn't be as offended as I am. Obviously I would still be somewhat offended by the ridiculous hair-trigger sensitivity to criticism and of course the cynical manipulation of language. Who could forget that? So yes, I'm offended by Islam in so many ways you really don't want to know.
Why?
Oh, you do? Oh, okay, well, where to begin? Well, I'm offended by a religion that regards the female half of humanity as innately inferior and deficient. And I'm offended that we all pretend that isn't the case, when we all know it bloody well is, and it will remain the case until we do something about it, because nobody else is going to. I'm offended that I live in a society where a little girl can be forced to walk around everywhere concealed inside a black sack. Is that religious freedom or is that child abuse? And at what precise point does one become the other, without the Catholic Church being involved? I'm offended by the dozens of Sharia courts in Britain that are allowed to treat women by law as less than fully human, and by the thousands of genital mutilations, not one of which has ever been punished despite carrying a theoretical 14-year prison sentence. And I'm offended and embarrassed in equal measure by the deafening silence on these matters from progressive Western feminists who think we shouldn't impose our values on Muslim women because that's the job of Muslim men. I'm offended that anyone who burns a Quran in Britain will go to prison, but if they burn a Bible, they won't. I'm offended when Saudi-funded Islamic schools are found to be using books that teach violence and hatred and are not shut down and everyone connected with them run out of the country on a rail. I'm offended that we allow extra unnecessary cruelty in slaughterhouses to accommodate Islamic superstition, and then we allow that meat to be sold, unlabelled and fed to children in schools without their parents' knowledge or consent, because we've learned the hard way that if we don't do things the Islamic way, there'll be trouble. I'm offended by that. I'm offended that publishers won't touch certain books or that the media won't reproduce certain images because they're afraid of Muslim violence. And I'm doubly offended by our society's cowardly tacit acceptance of this. I'm personally deeply offended by anyone who thinks I'm stupid enough to think I should give a damn about their carefully manufactured feelings, especially when it comes to the cultural terrorists' favourite word, Islamophobia, which is Islamic shorthand for free speech, secular democracy and common sense. I'm offended that anyone who speaks up for these things is likely to be deemed an Islamophobe and by extension a racist, because Islam is a race, apparently, a race of quite diverse ethnicity, it has to be said, but if you point this out, you'll be called an Islamophobe and a racist. Yet we know that racism is driven by fear and insecurity, which manifest themselves in things like intolerance, supremacism, and separatism, precisely the qualities we've come to associate with the religion of permanent offence, the one that likes to label everybody else mentally ill. If Islam is a race, and either it is or it isn't, let's make up our minds, shall we? Then Islamic supremacism is racism, and Islam is the most racist ideology on the planet. On the other hand, if it's not a race, then criticising it is not racist. So what's it going to be, people? Racist or not racist? Answers on a postcard to the racists at the East London Mosque, an institution which you won't be surprised to hear offends me. Indeed, whenever I hear, as I often do, about a visiting preacher at that place calling for death to gays and not being immediately arrested and deported with a firecracker up his arse, I'm offended to the point of virtual apoplexy. And I'm incandescently offended that Islam doesn't like free speech unless you're preaching death to gays and apostates, and then you can have as much of it as you like, in the sure knowledge that no Muslim, extremist or moderate, will call you what you are, a savage and a nutcase. But if you speak up for freedom, pluralism, equality, diversity, and genuine human rights, you're guaranteed to be slandered as a racist and an Islamophobe, and you are also guaranteed to be threatened with physical violence. I'm offended by that. And if you're not offended by it, or if you're pretending not to be offended because you don't want to cause offence, then you've got something seriously wrong with you.
What?
No offence.
Oh! My goodness, guys. Would I say that was harsh? Or would I say it's coming out of, anger, or, I don't know, based on experience? Because why would you be offended by so many things? Yes, definitely everything cannot be perfect. Well, that's why we say that wherever there's positivity, there'll be negativity. That definitely everything cannot be perfect. But you coming out to speak all of these, does it mean it happened to him personally or what? Why will you come out to talk about all these? Yes. There was a part who said, okay, I'm offended. I think at that place, it was school. It said something like, I'm offended that if somebody burned the Quran, they will be persecuted, but when you burn the Bible, you go scot-free. But I've not seen anybody burning the Bible. I don't think so. Or is there anybody that burned the Bible before? And he said he's offended by that. Thank God he's offended by Christians too. That's what it means, that you're also offended that Christians are doing that. And I don't know why Islam, people always feel like Islam has a lot of negativity. Why is it so? What's really going on? What's happening? Why do people think Islam, is a violent religion? Why do they think it's a terror religion? Why is that? There's too much of negativity. What's going on? Like, is that some things that I'm not getting? Because I feel like, based on my opinion, I feel like, yes, Muslims are nice people. The ones I've met so far, they are really lovely people. So why is it that on the internet or social media, people come out to voice out? They voice out. He said even especially the West are the Americans and other countries. They are offended by Islam. Like, and the last word he said there was really too harsh. Why will you say if you're not offended, that means there's something wrong with you? Like, really, what's going on, guys? I'm kind of lost. What's happening? I think he should have spoken more, because there's more to it than all this he just said. Because you saying that you're offended, what happened to you personally? Because you can only speak when you have evidence, right? It's just like when you go to the court of law, if you have evidence, you can't win the case, right? So for you to say, okay, you're offended, what really happened to you personally, or what happened to somebody you know? What is the problem? What really happened? You should have given us one or two examples of your encounter or somebody's encounter with Islam that makes you so offended, like make you so angry. Wow, this was a lot. I'm a non-Muslim, but man, this was a whole lot, a whole lot. I just don't know what's going on. As a Christian, I feel like this is just too much. Why will you say you're offended? This, if you do this, they'll take your Islamophobia. If you do this, Muslims are this, Islam like that. No, I don't know. This was just too much. You should have come out to talk more. There's more to it. Like you could see it all over his face that there's more to it. You just didn't want to spill it out, but it's all good. What do you think, guys? Do you think all what he said is right, or you think is wrong, or you think, you just don't get it? Like me, I just don't get it. What do you think? Do you think it's right? Do you have any experience or anything to add up to it? Please, I would love to read it in the comment box, because I think am I the only one that is lost yet? Am I the only one that sees Muslims as wonderful people, as good people? Maybe because of the few ones that I've met, and they look so good. I don't have issue with them. They are good people based on the people I've met. So let me know your point of view in the comment box. What are your experience? What do you have to talk about this man's video? I would love to read it in the comment box. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.